Have you ever looked at a simple penny and wondered if it could secretly be worth hundreds, or even thousands, of dollars? Most people ignore the loose change sitting in jars, drawers, and old coffee cans. But one small coin from the late 1960s continues to surprise collectors across America. It's the 1967 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that looks ordinary at first glance but hides a fascinating story connected to American history, rare mistakes, and the intense world of coin collecting. The 1967 Lincoln penny is one of those coins that millions of Americans have touched without realizing its importance. During the 1960s, the United States was facing a serious coin shortage. People were hoarding silver coins, vending machines needed change, and the U.S. Mint struggled to keep enough coins circulating across the country. To speed up production and stop collectors from pulling special coins out of circulation, the government made a surprising decision. From 1965 through 1967, the U.S. Mint removed mint marks from coins completely. That means the 1967 Lincoln penny was officially made without a mint mark. Unlike pennies from other years that may carry a small D for Denver or S for San Francisco, the 1967 penny was intentionally left blank beneath the date. For many people today, that missing mint mark creates confusion. Some think the coin is an error. Others believe it's automatically rare. The truth is more interesting than that. The Lincoln penny itself already had a long history by 1967. The design first appeared in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It was the first regular American coin to feature a real historical person instead of symbolic artwork. On the front, you see Lincoln's profile designed by Victor David Brenner. On the back, during 1967, the coin still carried the famous wheat-free memorial design introduced in 1959, showing the Lincoln Memorial Building in Washington, D.C. Inside that tiny image of the memorial is an incredible hidden detail many people never notice. If you look closely under magnification, you can actually see a tiny representation of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial. That means Abraham Lincoln appears on both sides of the coin at the same time. It's one of the smallest hidden artistic details ever placed on a U.S. coin. The 1967 penny was made mostly from copper, with a small amount of zinc mixed in. It weighs about 3.11 grams and has a smooth edge. Billions were produced because America desperately needed coins in circulation. In fact, more than 3 billion 1967 Lincoln pennies were struck. That enormous number means most ordinary examples are still common today. So if billions were made, why do collectors still care about this coin? The answer comes down to condition, rarity within rarity, and unusual mint errors that transform some ordinary pennies into valuable treasures. Most circulated 1967 pennies are worth only a few cents. But when collectors discover examples in exceptional condition, especially coins with bright original red surfaces, the value can rise dramatically. A penny that escapes scratches, dirt, and wear for decades becomes much harder to find than people expect. Collectors call these red examples because the coin still keeps its fiery copper color instead of turning brown over time. One stunning 1967 Lincoln penny graded in extremely high mint condition sold for thousands of dollars at auction. That surprises many people because they assume old pennies are all basically the same. But in coin collecting, condition changes everything. A worn penny and a nearly perfect penny can have a massive price difference even if they were made the same year. Then there are the error coins. This is where the story becomes even more exciting. During the rush to produce billions of coins in the 1960s, mistakes happened inside the mint. Some 1967 pennies were struck off center. Others were double struck. Some showed clipped edges or die cracks. And a few extremely rare examples displayed doubled letters and numbers caused by issues during the die-making process. Collectors especially hunt for dramatic off-center strikes. Imagine a penny where part of the design is missing because the blank coin was not properly aligned during striking. The more dramatic the mistake, the more collectors often want it. Some off-center 1967 pennies have sold for hundreds of dollars depending on how unusual the error appears. Another fascinating error involves die breaks and cuds. These happen when part of the coin die cracks or breaks during production. The result can create raised blobs of metal on the finished coin. To most people, it looks strange or damaged. To collectors, it can become highly desirable. There are also rumors that occasionally spread online about ultra-rare 1967 pennies accidentally struck on the wrong metal planchets. While many claims are exaggerated, authentic wrong planchet errors from this era can be extremely valuable if verified by experts. Imagine finding a penny somehow struck on a dime blank or another foreign planchet by mistake. Those kinds of errors are among the most sought-after discoveries in modern coin collecting. One reason collectors love the 1967 penny is because it sits at the crossroads of American history. The late 1960s were a time of major change in the United States. The country was dealing with the Vietnam War, civil rights struggles, cultural transformation, and economic pressures. Even the nation's coins reflected those challenges. The removal of mint marks was not just a random design choice. It was part of an emergency effort to keep commerce moving during a national coin shortage. That historical connection gives the coin a deeper meaning beyond its face value. There's also something psychologically exciting about a coin with no mint mark. People naturally feel curiosity when something appears missing. Even today, many new collectors search through jars of pennies believing they may have discovered a rare error simply because the coin lacks a letter under the date. That mystery keeps attention focused on the 1967 penny decade after decade. But here's an important fact many beginners don't know. A missing mint mark on a 1967 penny is normal. Because all regular 1967 pennies were made without mint marks, you should be careful when sellers online advertise them as rare just for lacking a letter. The real value usually comes from exceptional condition or genuine mint errors, not simply the absence of a mint mark itself. So how can you tell if your 1967 penny might actually be valuable? Start by examining the coin carefully under good lighting. Look at the color. Bright red copper usually brings stronger prices than dark brown surfaces. Next, check for wear on Lincoln's face and hair. Sharp details often mean the coin spent little time in circulation. Then inspect the date and lettering closely. Do any letters appear doubled? Is the strike uneven? Does the coin look off-center? Are there strange raised lines or cracks? These clues may point toward a collectible error. Weight can also matter. Authentic 1967 pennies should weigh close to 3.11 grams. If a coin weighs significantly more or less, it may deserve further investigation. Serious collectors often use small digital scales for this reason. Magnification helps too. A simple coin loop can reveal details invisible to the naked eye. Tiny doubling or unusual surface features become easier to spot once magnified. However, collectors must also watch out for fake errors and altered coins. Some people damage coins intentionally to imitate mint mistakes. Others remove parts of the surface or change the appearance chemically. Real mint errors happen during production at the mint itself. Damage occurring later usually lowers value instead of increasing it. Professional grading companies help solve that problem. Services like PCGS and NGC authenticate coins and assign condition grades. When a rare 1967 penny receives certification from a respected grading company, collectors gain confidence that the coin is genuine. Auction records show just how much confidence matters. A normal circulated 1967 penny may only be worth a cent or two, but a top-quality certified example can sell for hundreds or even thousands depending on rarity and grade. Certain dramatic errors also command strong prices because collectors compete aggressively for the best examples. There's another reason the 1967 penny remains popular today. Unlike ancient treasures locked inside museums, this coin still appears in ordinary places. People continue finding them in pocket change, inherited collections, old piggy banks, and forgotten jars. That possibility creates excitement. Every penny search feels like a treasure hunt where anyone could get lucky. Some collectors even remember discovering their first interesting coin as children while searching through rolls from a bank. The Lincoln penny often becomes the gateway into the entire hobby of numismatics. It's affordable, historical, and easy to recognize. And the 1967 issue stands out because of its unusual no mint mark story. Interestingly, the absence of mint marks during 1965 to 1967 created long-lasting confusion in the hobby. 4 years afterward, people continued assuming blank spaces meant mistakes. Even today, online marketplaces are filled with inflated claims about ordinary no mint mark coins. Experienced collectors know the difference between hype and true rarity. That's why education matters so much in coin collecting. The real treasures are usually the coins with genuine scarcity, exceptional preservation, or unusual minting mistakes. Understanding those differences helps collectors avoid disappointment and focus on coins with real historical and market value. Another fun fact about the 1967 penny is how durable these copper coins proved to be. Many survived decades of circulation because the metal composition was stronger than later zinc-based pennies introduced in the 1980s. Older copper Lincoln cents also have a distinct sound and feel that many collectors prefer. Some people even separate pre-1982 copper pennies from modern coins because the copper content itself carries value. The 1967 penny belongs to that older copper era, adding another layer of interest for collectors. Today, the coin remains a favorite among both beginners and experienced numismatists. Beginners enjoy the affordability and the thrill of searching for errors. Advanced collectors chase high-grade red examples with flawless surfaces. Historians appreciate the connection to America's economic struggles during the 1960s. And treasure hunters continue dreaming about finding that one extraordinary penny hiding in plain sight. What makes coin collecting so fascinating is that value often hides where nobody expects it. A coin smaller than a quarter can carry history, artistry, mystery, and financial potential all at once. The 1967 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny proves that even the most ordinary-looking object can have an extraordinary story behind it. So the next time you see an old penny sitting in a drawer or mixed into spare change, take a closer look before ignoring it. That tiny copper coin may have traveled through decades of American history, passed through thousands of hands, and survived long enough to become part of a collector's search today. And somewhere out there, another rare 1967 penny with an unusual error or near-perfect condition is probably still waiting to be discovered by someone who almost overlooked it. Most people would never look twice at a worn-out penny from 1968. It sits quietly in old jars, dusty drawers, and forgotten piggy banks across America. But what if one tiny copper coin from that year could actually be worth hundreds, thousands, or even more to the right collector? And what if the clue was hidden in one tiny letter beneath the date? The 1968 VDB Lincoln penny is one of those coins that continues to surprise collectors decades later. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Small, brown, and simple. But behind this coin is a fascinating story tied to American history, changing economics, minting mistakes, and the growing world of rare coin collecting. The D Mint mark on this penny tells us it was made at the Denver Mint in Colorado. In 1968, the United States was going through a turbulent time. The Vietnam War dominated headlines. Civil rights protests filled the streets. Television was becoming the center of American culture. And while the country was changing fast, millions of pennies were quietly being produced every single day for daily commerce. The Lincoln penny itself had already been around for nearly 60 years by 1968. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, it became the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. Before Lincoln appeared on the cent, American coins usually displayed symbolic images like Lady Liberty. But the Lincoln cent changed everything. The design on the front of the coin was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner. His portrait of Lincoln became one of the most recognizable images in American coin history. On the back of the 1968 penny, you'll see two wheat stalks were no longer there. Instead, by 1968, the reverse featured the Lincoln Memorial, introduced in 1959 to celebrate Lincoln's 150th birthday. If you look closely at the reverse side, you can actually see a tiny image of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial. That makes this one of the few U.S. coins where the same person appears on both sides of the coin. The 1968 VDB Lincoln penny was made mostly of copper, containing 95% copper and 5% zinc. It weighed about 3.11 grams and had a smooth edge. At the time, pennies were still widely used in everyday purchases. A single cent could still buy small items in many parts of America. Few people imagined these coins would someday become collector treasures. Now here's where things start getting interesting. More than 2.8 billion 1968 VDB pennies were produced. That sounds enormous, and it is. Because of that huge number, most 1968 VDB pennies are still only worth a few cents today. But certain examples stand out because of condition, color, rarity, or minting errors. Collectors divide Lincoln cents into three color categories: brown, red-brown, and red. A fully red 1968 VDB penny is far more desirable because it still shows much of its original mint luster. Copper naturally darkens over time, so finding a bright red coin after decades is difficult. That means condition becomes everything. A heavily worn 1968 VDB penny might only be worth 1 or 2 cents, but a high-grade uncirculated example with sharp details and bright red surfaces can be worth hundreds of dollars. In rare cases, professionally graded coins with nearly perfect condition have sold for much more. One example graded MS67 red by a major coin grading service sold for thousands of dollars at auction because of its exceptional quality. Think about that for a moment. A coin originally worth 1 cent becoming worth more than a used car simply because it survived in extraordinary condition. But condition alone is not the only reason collectors search for this coin. Mint errors are another huge reason why the 1968D penny attracts attention. Coin errors happen during the minting process. Sometimes the machines strike incorrectly. Sometimes the metal blanks are flawed. Sometimes the dies used to stamp the coins develop cracks or doubling. These mistakes can create rare varieties that collectors love. One of the most talked about errors for Lincoln cents is doubling. A double die error happens when the coin die receives multiple impressions at slightly different angles during production. This creates a doubled appearance on letters or numbers. While the famous 1969S double die penny often steals the spotlight, collectors still carefully inspect 1968D pennies for signs of doubling or other unusual features. Another possible error is an off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank is not perfectly aligned during minting. The design may appear shifted, leaving part of the coin blank. The more dramatic the error while still showing the date, the more valuable the coin can become. There are also die cracks, clipped planchets, and coins struck through grease or debris. Each error tells a different story about what happened inside the mint at the exact moment that coin was created. And sometimes, those mistakes can be extremely valuable. One error penny from the late 1960s sold for several $1,000s because of a dramatic minting flaw combined with excellent condition. That possibility keeps collectors searching through old rolls and jars even today. Now you might wonder something important. If so many fake coins and altered coins exist, how can you tell whether a 1968D penny is genuine? The first step is checking the weight. A real 1968D Lincoln penny should weigh around 3.11 grams. If it weighs significantly less or more, that could be a warning sign. Next, inspect the mint mark carefully. On authentic coins, the D mint mark should look natural and properly aligned beneath the date. Some counterfeiters add fake mint marks to coins in hopes of increasing value. Under magnification, added mint marks often appear uneven, glued, or differently colored from the surrounding surface. Collectors also study the lettering and Lincoln's portrait. Fake coins sometimes have soft or strange-looking details because they were cast rather than struck. Another smart move is using a magnet. Since genuine 1968D pennies are mostly copper, they should not stick strongly to magnets. If one does, it could be altered or counterfeit. For highly valuable examples, professional grading services like PCGS or NGC are extremely important. These companies authenticate coins, grade their condition, and seal them in protective holders. That gives buyers confidence when paying serious money. And speaking of serious money, let's look at some real values collectors have paid. Most circulated 1968D pennies sell for only a few cents to $1. But uncirculated red examples can easily sell for 10, 20, 50, or even hundreds of dollars depending on grade. Coins graded MS66 red often sell for respectable premiums. But once you reach MS67 red, values can jump dramatically because so few coins survive in nearly flawless condition. Auction records have shown elite quality examples selling for several $1,000s. That's because collectors compete fiercely for the finest known coins. In the world of coin collecting, tiny differences matter. One small scratch or dull spot can separate a $100 coin from a $1,000 coin. That may sound unbelievable to non-collectors, but rarity plus condition creates value. And sometimes survival itself becomes the rarest thing of all. Think about how many pennies from 1968 were spent on candy, soda, newspapers, or vending machines. Most became worn, damaged, or lost. Very few were carefully preserved from the moment they left the mint. That's why pristine examples are so hard to find today. There's also another fascinating reason collectors love the 1968D penny. It comes from an important transition period in American coinage. Just a few years earlier, the US government removed silver from dimes and quarters because rising silver prices made the metal too valuable. Americans began hoarding older silver coins, creating shortages in circulation. The late 1960s became a turning point for American money. People started paying closer attention to coins. Collecting exploded in popularity. And Lincoln cents became one of the easiest ways for everyday Americans to enter the hobby. Kids searched pocket change hoping to find rare dates. Families stored rolls of pennies in closets and basements. Coin albums became common gifts. The 1968D penny was part of that era. Another interesting fact is that mint marks returned to US coins in 1968 after being temporarily removed for several years. During the mid-1960s coin shortage, the government eliminated mint marks to discourage collectors from hoarding coins. But by 1968, mint marks returned, including the small d for Denver. That tiny letter became incredibly important for collectors trying to complete Lincoln cent collections. And there's something emotional about this coin too. Unlike gold bars locked in vaults, pennies connect directly to everyday American life. A 1968 D penny may have traveled through diners, gas stations, movie theaters, lunch counters, and family stores. It may have passed through thousands of hands over nearly 6 decades. Every scratch carries history. Every faded surface tells a story. And somewhere out there, rare untouched examples still hide in old collections waiting to be discovered. That possibility is what keeps collectors searching. Some people search for treasure with metal detectors on beaches. Others search antique shops for hidden art. Coin collectors search through pocket change and old penny rolls hoping to spot that one extraordinary coin everyone else overlooked. And sometimes they actually find one. Stories still appear of people discovering valuable Lincoln cents in inherited jars or forgotten boxes. A coin ignored for decades suddenly becomes worth hundreds or thousands after professional grading. That dream continues to fuel the hobby. The 1968 D Lincoln penny may not be the rarest coin in American history. It may not contain gold or silver, but it represents something special in the collecting world. It proves that even the smallest and most ordinary objects can carry hidden value. And maybe that's why collectors never stop looking. Because every penny has a story. Some stories are worth far more than 1 cent. So the next time you see an old Lincoln penny with a tiny D beneath the date, don't ignore it too quickly. Check the color. Look at the condition. Search for unusual errors. You might be holding a simple piece of pocket change. Or you might be holding a small copper treasure that survived nearly 60 years waiting for someone to finally recognize its true value. And somewhere tonight, in an old jar, a forgotten drawer, or a dusty coin roll, another rare 1968 D Lincoln penny could still be waiting to be found. Most people would never look twice at a worn little penny from 1969. It's small, brown, and easy to ignore. But hidden among millions of ordinary coins is one version of the 1969 D Lincoln penny that has made collectors stop in disbelief. Some examples have sold for shocking prices, while others contain tiny details that can completely change their value. And if you know what to look for, one of these pennies could still be sitting unnoticed inside an old jar, forgotten drawer, or pocket change collection. The 1969 D Lincoln penny was produced at the Denver Mint during one of the most fascinating periods in modern American coin history. America was changing rapidly in 1969. The Apollo 11 moon landing captured the world's attention, the Vietnam War dominated headlines, and millions of Americans still used cash every single day. Pennies moved through grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, and family businesses constantly. Because of that heavy use, the United States Mint produced enormous numbers of Lincoln cents. The D Mint mark on the coin stands for Denver, meaning the penny was struck at the Denver Mint facility in Colorado. More than 4 billion 1969 D Lincoln pennies were made, which sounds like it would make the coin completely worthless today. And for most examples, that is true. A heavily worn 1969 D penny is usually worth only a few cents. But hidden within those billions are certain coins with rare conditions, mistakes, and characteristics that collectors desperately search for. The Lincoln penny itself already had a long history by 1969. The design first appeared in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It was the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real person instead of symbolic artwork. The front of the coin shows Lincoln's portrait designed by Victor David Brenner. On the back, the familiar wheat ears had already been replaced years earlier by the Lincoln Memorial design, which debuted in 1959 to celebrate Lincoln's 150th birthday. That means the 1969 D penny features Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. If you look carefully at the back, you can actually see a tiny image of Lincoln seated inside the memorial. Many people never notice that detail because it's incredibly small. In fact, this made the Lincoln cent one of the first U.S. coins to show the same person on both sides. The coin was made primarily from copper with a small amount of tin and zinc mixed into the metal. It weighs about 3.11 grams and has a smooth edge. At first glance, nothing about it appears unusual. But collectors know that the real story begins when you start examining the smallest details. One reason the 1969D penny attracts attention today is because of the famous confusion surrounding the rare 1969 double-die pennies. Now, it's important to understand something here. The extremely famous double-die Lincoln cent from 1969 does not have a D mint mark. The legendary double-die version was struck in Philadelphia without a mint mark at all. Those coins are among the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered, sometimes selling for tens of thousands of dollars or more. But because of that famous variety, collectors began carefully checking all 1969 pennies, including the Denver versions. And during those searches, people started finding interesting 1969D coins with unusual mint errors and high-grade conditions worth significant money. One of the most valuable things for any Lincoln penny is condition. Most 1969D pennies circulated heavily for decades. They picked up scratches, dirt, fading color, and wear from constant handling. But a few somehow survived in nearly perfect condition. Those are the coins collectors compete for aggressively. A high-grade 1969D penny with full original red color can sell for surprising amounts. Copper coins naturally darken over time, so finding one with bright mint red surfaces after more than 50 years is difficult. Professional grading companies use labels like brown, and red to describe color quality. Full red examples are usually the most valuable. Some nearly flawless 1969D pennies graded at the very top levels have sold for hundreds and even thousands of dollars at auction. That shocks many people because they assume all pennies are basically worthless. But collectors are willing to pay extraordinary prices for coins that survived in exceptional condition. Then there are mint errors. Error coins are mistakes created during the minting process, and collectors love them because they are accidental and often unique. On 1969D pennies, several types of errors can increase value dramatically. One popular error is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank is not properly aligned when struck by the dies. Part of the design may be missing while the rest appears shifted to one side. The more dramatic the error while still showing the date, the more valuable the coin usually becomes. Another sought-after error is a die crack. Over time, minting dies can develop cracks from pressure and repeated use. Those cracks transfer onto coins as raised lines. Some collectors specifically search for dramatic die cracks because they give each coin a distinct appearance. There are also repunched mint marks, where the D-mint mark was punched more than once at slightly different angles before the final strike. Under magnification, the mint mark can appear doubled or distorted. These varieties are especially interesting because they reveal how coins were made before modern computerized minting methods became standard. Some 1969D pennies also show doubling in certain areas of the lettering or design. Not all doubling is valuable, though. Collectors must distinguish between true double die varieties and simple machine doubling, which is far more common and less valuable. The difference can mean everything. A true double die results from the die itself being created incorrectly, causing repeated doubling on every coin struck from that die. Machine doubling happens during the striking process and usually appears flatter and less dramatic. Over the years, collectors have discovered many altered coins trying to imitate rare varieties. Some counterfeiters attempt to add a fake D-mint mark onto a valuable 1969 double-die penny to trick buyers. Others modify ordinary pennies to create fake errors. That's why authentication is extremely important. One of the easiest ways to identify a real 1969D penny is by examining the mint mark carefully. On genuine coins, the D should look natural and properly aligned with the date and lettering. Added mint marks often appear uneven, oddly shaped, or attached unnaturally to the surface. Weight is another clue. A standard 1969D penny should weigh around 3.11 grams. Significant differences may indicate damage, alteration, or counterfeit materials. Collectors also inspect the surface texture under magnification. Real mint errors usually blend naturally into the coin's metal flow, while fake alterations can show scratches, tool marks, or glue residue. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC play a major role in today's coin market because they authenticate coins and assign condition grades. A certified coin inside a secure holder gives buyers confidence that the piece is genuine. Auction records for top-quality 1969D pennies can be surprising. Ordinary circulated examples may sell for only a few cents, but pristine mint state red examples graded MS67 or higher have reached thousands of dollars in competitive auctions. The difference between a common penny and a rare collectible can depend on tiny details almost invisible to the naked eye. That is part of what makes coin collecting so exciting. Treasure can hide in plain sight. There are stories of collectors finding valuable Lincoln cents inside old bankrolls, inherited collections, and even pocket change. Many people overlook pennies completely because they seem too common to matter. But experienced collectors know that rare dates, errors, and exceptional conditions can turn an ordinary coin into something remarkable. The 1969 D penny also represents a fascinating moment in American history. Every coin tells a story beyond its value. Think about how many hands these pennies passed through over the decades. Some may have bought candy for children in the 1970s. Others may have sat in cash registers during historic events Americans watched unfold on television. A single penny can survive wars, recessions, moves across the country, and generations of family ownership. That connection to history is one reason collectors become passionate about coins. They are holding small pieces of the past. Another interesting fact about 1969 pennies is that public awareness of rare coin varieties exploded around that era. During the 1960s and 1970s, Americans became increasingly fascinated by coin collecting. Newspaper stories about valuable pennies created excitement nationwide. People began checking change more carefully, hoping to discover a fortune hiding in everyday currency. The famous 1969 double die cent became so well known that even government investigators once suspected some examples were counterfeit because the doubling looked so dramatic. Eventually, experts confirmed the coins were genuine mint errors. That story added even more mystery and excitement to all 1969 Lincoln cents. Today, collectors continue searching through old collections hoping to uncover hidden treasures. While the average 1969 D penny may not make anyone rich, certain examples absolutely command strong prices. Coins with rare errors, exceptional color, sharp strikes, or near-perfect surfaces remain highly desirable. For beginners, the 1969 D penny is often an exciting entry point into coin collecting because it teaches an important lesson. Rarity is not always about age alone. Sometimes a coin becomes valuable because of condition, errors, or historical interest rather than simply being old. A penny sitting quietly in a jar for 50 years might seem insignificant, but under the right circumstances, that same coin could become the centerpiece of a collection. Collectors especially love Lincoln cents because they are relatable. Almost everyone has handled pennies before. Unlike rare gold coins hidden away in museums, Lincoln cents connect directly to everyday American life. That familiarity creates emotional attachment and curiosity. And perhaps that is the biggest reason the 1969 D Lincoln penny still captures attention today. It reminds people that extraordinary discoveries can come from ordinary places. A coin worth 1 cent can suddenly become worth hundreds or even thousands depending on the smallest details. So the next time you see an old penny dated 1969 with a tiny D beneath the year, don't dismiss it too quickly. Look closely at the color. Study the lettering. Check for unusual doubling, striking errors, or exceptional condition. Because somewhere among the billions produced decades ago, a few special coins still wait to be discovered. And maybe one of them is closer than anyone realizes. Most people would walk right past a 1971 Lincoln penny without giving it a second look. But hidden among millions of ordinary coins is one tiny copper cent with an S mint mark that has shocked collectors, sold for surprising amounts of money, and sparked decades of treasure hunting across America. And the craziest part is this. Some of these pennies may still be sitting in old jars, forgotten piggy banks, or family coin collections right now. The 1971 S Lincoln penny is one of those coins that proves you never need gold or silver to own something valuable. Sometimes a single cent can tell a story bigger than its face value. It carries the history of America in the early 1970s, the artistry of one of the nation's most recognizable coin designs, and a few rare mistakes that turned ordinary pennies into collector legends. The Lincoln cent itself first appeared back in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. Before that, American coins almost never featured real people. But Lincoln changed everything. His portrait became the face of the penny, and over time, generations of Americans carried that design in their pockets every single day. By 1971, the United States was going through major changes. The country was deep in the Vietnam War era, the space race was still exciting the public, and inflation was beginning to affect everyday life. Yet the penny remained a symbol of simplicity and tradition. Millions of Americans used Lincoln cents constantly for groceries, vending machines, gas stations, and payphones. The S-Mint mark on the 1971 penny tells us something important. It means the coin was made at the San Francisco Mint. During that period, San Francisco was mostly known for producing proof coins, which are specially made coins created for collectors using polished dies and carefully prepared blanks. These proof coins were never meant for circulation like regular pocket change. They were made to look sharper, shinier, and more detailed. That alone makes the 1971 S penny interesting. Unlike ordinary circulation pennies that were mass-produced quickly, proof coins from San Francisco received extra attention during the minting process. Collectors loved them because the mirror-like surfaces and frosted designs made the coin look almost like a tiny work of art. At first glance, the 1971 S Lincoln penny looks familiar. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln facing to the right. Around him are the words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year 1971 with the small s underneath the date. On the back is the classic Lincoln memorial design, which had been used since 1959. If you look carefully at the reverse side, you can actually see a tiny image of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial between the columns. Many people never notice that detail until someone points it out. The coin was made mostly of copper, with a small amount of zinc mixed into the metal. It weighs about 3.11 grams and has that familiar reddish color collectors call red copper. Fresh proof examples from 1971 can still glow with a bright reflective shine that almost looks wet under strong light. But here is where things become truly exciting. Not every 1971 S penny is equal. Some of these coins contain errors and unusual varieties that collectors aggressively search for even today. One of the most famous is the 1971 S double die obverse penny. On this rare variety, parts of the lettering and numbers appear doubled because of a mistake during the die creation process. If you look closely under magnification, you may notice doubling on the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," or even the date itself. To the average person, it may look small. But to collectors, this kind of error is like finding hidden treasure. Why? Because minting mistakes are accidental. They are not supposed to happen. And when a rare mistake slips through quality control and enters collector hands, demand can explode. Some high-quality 1971 S double die pennies have sold for hundreds and even thousands of dollars depending on condition and rarity. That is a huge jump from a coin originally worth just 1 cent. Another interesting variety is the deep cameo proof. On these coins, Lincoln's portrait and the lettering appear frosty white against dark mirror-like fields. The contrast is dramatic and beautiful. Collectors especially love deep cameo examples because they represent the very best quality from the mint. Condition matters enormously with this coin. A scratched or damaged proof penny may only be worth a few dollars, but a perfect graded example can bring much more. Professional grading companies examine these coins under strict standards, and tiny imperfections can dramatically affect value. One reason collectors enjoy the 1971 S penny so much is that it creates a realistic treasure hunt. Unlike ultra-rare coins that almost nobody can afford, this penny still appears in old proof sets, inherited collections, and estate sales. That means ordinary people sometimes discover valuable examples without even realizing it. There have been stories of collectors buying dusty coin albums at garage sales only to discover a rare double die hidden inside. Others inherited proof sets from parents or grandparents and later learned that one particular penny in the set carried unusual value. Auction records have only increased the excitement. Some pristine 1971 S proof pennies graded at the highest levels have sold for hundreds of dollars because perfect examples are surprisingly difficult to find. Coins with strong cameo or deep cameo contrast often command even higher prices. And when a genuine double die variety appears in exceptional condition, competition among collectors can become intense. One collector reportedly paid more than $1,000 for a premium quality example with strong doubling and outstanding eye appeal. That may sound unbelievable for a penny, but rare coin collectors are not just buying metal. They are buying history, rarity, condition, and the thrill of owning something few others possess. Of course, with valuable coins comes another problem: fakes and altered pieces. Some dishonest sellers try to modify ordinary pennies to imitate rare varieties. Others polish coins aggressively to make them appear more attractive. But experienced collectors know exactly what to watch for. A genuine 1971 S proof penny should display sharp details, reflective surfaces, and consistent quality. The mint mark should look natural and properly positioned. On real double die varieties, the doubling appears as part of the design itself, not as random damage or blurry smearing. One important warning is this: machine doubling is not the same as a true double die. Machine doubling happens during the striking process and usually looks flat or shelf-like. True double die coins show clear separation and rounded design details. Beginners often confuse the two. That is why serious collectors frequently rely on professional grading services for authentication. These companies examine the coin carefully and seal it inside protective holders with official labels confirming the variety and condition. Another fascinating detail about the 1971 penny involves color classification. Collectors categorize copper pennies into red, red-brown, and brown. Fully red coins are generally the most valuable because they retain the original mint color. Over time, exposure to air and moisture can darken the surface. So finding a bright red 1971 penny more than 50 years later can be surprisingly difficult. And here is something many people do not know. The San Francisco Mint stopped making regular circulating pennies with the S mint mark after the mid-1970s. That gives coins like the 1971 proof penny a special connection to an era that no longer exists. It represents a time when proof coin production was becoming increasingly popular among American collectors. There is also something emotional about Lincoln pennies that keeps people fascinated generation after generation. Abraham Lincoln remains one of the most respected presidents in American history. His image on the humble penny created a connection between everyday Americans and the nation's past. For many collectors, Lincoln cents were the very first coins they ever searched through as children. That nostalgia matters. Collectors remember opening old coin jars with grandparents, searching for wheat pennies, or filling blue coin folders 1 cent at a time. The 1971 penny sits right in the middle of that tradition. It is old enough to feel historic, yet modern enough that examples still survive in large numbers. And despite millions being produced, truly exceptional examples remain rare. That balance between availability and rarity creates strong collector demand. Beginners can afford ordinary examples, while advanced collectors compete fiercely for perfect specimens and rare varieties. Even today, online forums and coin communities regularly discuss the 1971 penny. Some collectors focus on finding deep cameo proofs. Others hunt for double dies. And some simply enjoy assembling complete Lincoln cent collections that tell the story of American coinage decade by decade. What makes this coin even more exciting is the possibility that hidden treasures still exist. Many old proof sets remain unopened. Families often store coins away for decades without checking values. A person cleaning out a closet or attic could unknowingly discover a valuable variety tomorrow. That possibility keeps the hunt alive. And unlike many collectibles that require huge investments, coin collecting still feels personal and accessible. One tiny penny can spark curiosity, research, and excitement. A simple coin can send someone down a path of learning about American history, minting technology, and the stories behind rare discoveries. The 1971 Lincoln penny may not look extraordinary at first, but beneath that small copper surface lies a world of hidden detail, collector passion, and historical importance. It reminds us that value is not always obvious. Sometimes the most overlooked objects carry the most fascinating stories. So the next time you see an old penny with a tiny S under the date, do not ignore it too quickly. Take a closer look. Check the shine. Study the lettering. Look for doubling. Because somewhere out there, another rare 1971 Lincoln penny is still waiting to be discovered by someone who almost missed it. And who knows? The next incredible coin story might begin with a single cent sitting quietly in your own collection. Most people would walk right past a 1978 Lincoln penny without thinking twice. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. But hidden among millions of these small copper coins are a few rare examples that have shocked collectors with surprising values. Some have sold for hundreds of dollars. Others became famous because of tiny mistakes almost nobody noticed at first. And the most interesting part is this. Many people still have these pennies sitting in old jars, dresser drawers, or forgotten piggy banks right now. The 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one of those coins that proves everyday pocket change can carry unexpected stories and real collector interest. At first glance, it may seem like just another 1-cent coin from the late 1970s. But once you understand its history, design, and the rare details collectors search for, this little penny becomes far more fascinating than most people imagine. The coin was produced during a very different time in American history. In 1978, the United States was dealing with inflation, economic uncertainty, and rising production costs at the U.S. Mint. Despite those challenges, billions of pennies were still being struck every year because the 1-cent coin remained an important part of everyday commerce. The Lincoln cent had already been around for decades by then. First introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln, it became the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical person instead of a symbolic figure. By 1978, the familiar Lincoln penny design was already deeply connected to American culture. Children collected them in albums. Adults tossed them into jars. Stores handed them out every day as change. Most people never imagined some could become collectible treasures later on. The no-mint mark version of the 1978 penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During that time, pennies made in Philadelphia normally did not carry a mint mark at all. So when collectors say 1978 no-mint mark penny, they are talking about the standard Philadelphia issue. Meanwhile, pennies made in Denver carried a small D mint mark beneath the date, and coins made in San Francisco for collectors carried an S mint mark. Even though the Philadelphia version was common, collectors still pay close attention to certain examples because condition changes everything in coin collecting. A worn penny worth 1 cent can suddenly become worth hundreds if it survived in exceptional condition for decades. The front of the coin features Abraham Lincoln facing to the right. Above his head appears the famous motto, "In God We Trust." The word liberty sits to the left, while the date 1978 appears on the right side. Since this version has no mint mark, the space beneath the date is empty. The back of the coin displays the Lincoln Memorial, which had been used on pennies since 1959. If you look closely at the reverse design, you can actually see a tiny image of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial between the central pillars. That hidden detail amazed generations of collectors once they discovered it. The 1978 penny was made mostly from copper. Specifically, it contained 95% copper and 5% zinc. This gives the coin its classic reddish appearance and slightly heavier feel compared to modern pennies made after 1982. Many collectors enjoy older copper cents because they represent a different era in American coin production. But what truly drives interest in the 1978 no-mint mark penny is not just the design or history. It is the possibility of rare conditions and unusual errors. Coin errors happen during the minting process. Machines move fast, and occasionally something goes wrong. A die may crack. A design may shift off-center. Letters might appear doubled. Sometimes metal defects create strange surfaces or missing details. Most errors are minor, but certain mistakes can become highly collectible. One famous type of error collectors search for is called a double die. This happens when the design impression is slightly duplicated during die creation, causing letters or numbers to appear doubled under magnification. On some 1978 pennies, collectors have reported noticeable doubling in areas like the date or inscriptions. Strong examples can attract serious attention. Another valuable error is the off-center strike. If the blank coin planchet is not properly aligned during striking, part of the design may be missing while the remaining image appears shifted. Depending on how dramatic the error looks, these coins can sell for impressive amounts. Collectors also search for clipped planchets, die cracks, and coins struck through grease or debris. These unusual mint mistakes transform ordinary pennies into conversation pieces. Still, the biggest factor affecting value is condition. Coin collectors use grading systems to judge how well a coin has been preserved. Most 1978 pennies circulated heavily, meaning they picked up scratches, wear, and discoloration from everyday use. But a small number survived in nearly perfect condition. A bright red, uncirculated 1978 no-mint mark penny with strong luster can be worth far more than face value. The rarest examples are coins graded at the very top of the scale by professional grading services. For example, ordinary circulated 1978 pennies are generally worth only a few cents, but high-grade uncirculated examples can sell for much more. Some pristine red specimens graded mint state 67 or higher have sold for hundreds of dollars at auction. In certain cases, exceptional coins reach prices over $1,000 because collectors compete fiercely for the finest known examples. That surprises many people because they assume old coins must be extremely ancient to hold value. But rarity in coin collecting often comes down to survival and quality rather than age alone. Think about it this way. Billions of 1978 pennies were produced, but very few remained untouched for nearly 50 years. Most entered circulation immediately and suffered damage over time. Finding one with flawless surfaces, original mint shine, and sharp details becomes increasingly difficult as decades pass. This is exactly why collectors examine rolls of old pennies so carefully. One seemingly ordinary coin might stand out because of its color, strike quality, or preservation. There are also stories of collectors discovering valuable examples in the most unexpected places. Some found them inside inherited coin jars. Others spotted them while searching bankrolls. A few even discovered error coins in everyday pocket change years ago before values increased. Of course, whenever money is involved, fake coins and altered coins also appear. That is why learning how to identify a genuine 1978 no-mint mark penny matters. First, check the weight. A genuine 1978 penny should weigh around 3.11 grams because it was made primarily from copper. Coins with unusual weights could indicate damage, alteration, or counterfeiting. Next, study the surface carefully. Real coins show natural wear patterns and proper design details. Fake coins often look too soft, too shiny, or strangely textured. Collectors also recommend using a magnifying glass to inspect the date and lettering. Some altered coins are created by removing mint marks or changing numbers to imitate rare varieties. Uneven surfaces near the date or strange tool marks can be warning signs. Professional coin grading companies provide another layer of protection. When a valuable coin is authenticated and sealed inside a grading holder, collectors gain confidence that the coin is genuine and accurately graded. One interesting fact about the 1978 penny is that it belongs to the final years before major changes hit the Lincoln cent series. Just a few years later, rising copper prices forced the US Mint to change the composition of the penny in 1982. Modern pennies became mostly zinc with only a thin copper coating. That means the 1978 penny represents part of the older solid copper era many collectors appreciate today. Another surprising detail involves how color affects value. Coin collectors classify copper pennies into three basic categories: brown, red-brown, and red. A bright red penny retains much of its original mint color and usually commands the highest prices. Brown coins, which darkened over time from oxidation, are generally less valuable unless they feature rare errors or extraordinary grades. This color difference can create huge price gaps between coins from the same year. One worn brown 1978 penny may be worth only a cent, while a glowing red mint state example could attract bidding wars. The emotional side of coin collecting also plays a huge role in why people love coins like the 1978 Lincoln cent. For many Americans, these pennies connect directly to childhood memories. People remember searching through change with parents or grandparents, filling blue coin folders, or hearing stories about rare coins discovered by chance. There is something exciting about the idea that treasure could still be hiding in plain sight. Unlike gold bars locked in vaults, rare pennies can appear almost anywhere. That possibility keeps collectors searching. Today, interest in Lincoln cents remains incredibly strong because the series spans more than a century of American history. Every decade tells a different story through design changes, mint errors, metal compositions, and economic shifts. The 1978 no-mint mark penny may not be the rarest Lincoln cent ever produced, but it holds an important place in the long-running series. Collectors appreciate it because it combines accessibility with hidden potential. Anyone can still find one. Yet exceptional examples continue to command respect and surprising prices in the coin market. And that is what makes this coin so fascinating. It reminds us that value is not always obvious at first glance. Sometimes the smallest details make the biggest difference. A tiny doubling in the lettering. A perfectly preserved copper shine. A rare minting mistake missed decades ago. These little details turn an ordinary penny into a collector's prize. So the next time you see a 1978 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, do not dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Check the condition. Examine the details. Because somewhere out there, another rare example may still be waiting to be discovered by someone who almost spent it for just 1 cent. And perhaps the most surprising part of all is this. Right now, in homes across America, old jars filled with forgotten pennies are quietly sitting on shelves, untouched for years. Hidden inside one of them could be a coin that tells a remarkable story, captures a piece of American history, and maybe even carries far more value than anyone expects. Most people would walk right past a 1981 Lincoln penny without thinking twice. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, hidden among millions of these tiny copper coins are a few rare examples that collectors have hunted for years. Some have unusual errors. Some are in nearly perfect condition. And a handful have sold for far more than 1 cent. The question is simple. Could one of these forgotten pennies still be hiding in a jar, drawer, or old pocket change collection today? The 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one of those coins that quietly sits in circulation history while collectors continue searching for the best examples. At first glance, there is nothing dramatic about it. It carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, just like many pennies Americans used every day for decades. But the story behind this coin becomes much more interesting once you understand what was happening in America during the early 1980s. The United States was facing rising production costs at the time. Copper prices were increasing, and the government was beginning to worry about how expensive it had become to make pennies. In 1981, the Lincoln cent was still primarily made from copper, but major changes were already on the horizon. In fact, just 1 year later, in 1982, the composition of the penny would change forever. That makes the 1981 penny important in American coin history. It represents one of the last full years before the United States Mint switched away from the traditional bronze composition that had been used for generations. For many collectors, this gives the coin a special historical connection. It is almost like the final chapter of the classic copper Lincoln cent era. Now, when people hear the phrase no mint mark, they sometimes assume the coin is automatically rare. That is not always true. In the case of the 1981 Lincoln penny, the coins without a mint mark were produced at the Philadelphia Mint. During that time, pennies made in Philadelphia normally did not carry a mint mark. So a missing mint mark on a regular 1981 penny is actually completely normal. Still, that does not mean every 1981 no mint mark penny is common or worthless. More than 7 billion Lincoln cents were produced across all mints in 1981, with Philadelphia striking a massive number of them. Because of those high production numbers, most circulated examples are only worth face value today. But collectors are not looking for average coins. They are searching for the unusual ones. They want coins with rare errors, sharp details, original red color, or exceptional preservation. And that is where things become exciting. One of the biggest factors affecting value is condition. A heavily worn 1981 penny that spent decades moving through cash registers and pockets will usually be worth only 1 cent. But if a coin survived in pristine condition, never circulated, and still shines with its original mint luster, collectors may pay surprisingly high prices for it. Professional grading services use a numerical scale to judge a coin's condition. The closer a coin gets to a perfect grade, the more valuable it can become. For example, ordinary 1981 no-mint mark pennies in circulated condition are extremely common. But a certified mint state example with strong red color can sell for dozens or even hundreds of dollars depending on the exact grade. In some cases, near-perfect examples have sold for several $100s at auction. That surprises many people because they assume modern pennies cannot be valuable. But the coin market works differently. Scarcity in top condition matters far more than age alone. Then there are the error coins. Error coins are one of the biggest reasons collectors examine ordinary pennies so carefully. A small mistake made during the minting process can transform a 1-cent coin into something highly collectible. And the 1981 Lincoln penny has several known error varieties that continue attracting attention. One example is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank is not properly aligned during production. Part of the design may appear missing, shifted, or cut off. The more dramatic the error, the more valuable the coin can become. Another popular error involves double strikes or doubling. On some coins, certain letters or numbers may appear slightly doubled because of problems during the striking process. Collectors closely inspect the date, lettering, and Lincoln's portrait looking for these unusual features. There are also clipped planchet errors, where part of the coin appears missing because the blank itself was cut incorrectly before striking. These odd-looking coins are especially popular because the mistake is easy to see with the naked eye. Some collectors have also searched for transitional composition errors connected to the major metal changes happening around that era. Since 1982 became the transition year from copper to zinc pennies, many people wonder whether unusual metal variations from 1981 could exist. While standard 1981 pennies were made from the traditional bronze composition, the growing public interest around copper pennies has increased attention on all coins from that period. The design of the 1981 penny also carries deep American symbolism. The front of the coin features Abraham Lincoln, one of the most respected presidents in United States history. The portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner and first appeared on the Lincoln cent in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. It became the first regular American coin to feature a real historical person. On the reverse side, The Lincoln Memorial design appears between the words United States of America and 1 cent. If you look very carefully at the memorial, you can actually see a tiny image of Lincoln sitting inside the building. That means Lincoln appears on both sides of the coin at the same time, something many people never notice. The 1981 penny was struck in bronze, made mostly of copper with a small amount of tin and zinc. Because of its copper content, the coin has a distinctive warm color that many collectors still prefer over modern zinc pennies. Older copper cents often develop beautiful red and brown tones as they age, giving each coin its own appearance. Now let's talk about real collector value. Most circulated 1981 no-mint mark pennies are not rare, but when condition and rarity combine, prices can rise quickly. Certified examples in high mint state grades have sold for well over $100. Exceptional examples with strong original red surfaces may sell for several $100s to competitive collectors building registry sets. Error coins can bring even more attention. Dramatic off-center strikes or major minting mistakes may sell for hundreds depending on the visibility and uniqueness of the error. Collectors love coins that tell a story, and mint errors represent moments when the production process unexpectedly failed. But buyers should also be careful. As coin values rise online, fake coins and misleading listings become more common. Some sellers clean ordinary pennies to make them appear more valuable. Others may alter coins or exaggerate minor imperfections. A genuine 1981 no-mint mark penny should have the correct weight, appearance, and texture. Traditional bronze Lincoln cents from that period weigh about 3.11 grams. Serious collectors often use small digital scales to confirm authenticity. If a coin looks suspiciously shiny, unusually colored, or damaged in unnatural ways, it may have been altered after leaving the mint. Professional grading companies also help protect buyers and sellers. Coins authenticated and sealed by trusted grading services usually carry stronger market confidence because experts have verified their condition and authenticity. Interestingly, many valuable coins are discovered completely by accident. People have found collectible Lincoln cents inside old piggy banks, inherited coin jars, garage sale boxes, and forgotten family collections. Some collectors search through rolls of pennies from banks hoping to spot rare dates or unusual errors. It is a slow process, but the excitement comes from never knowing what might appear next. And that excitement is exactly why Lincoln cents remain one of the most popular areas of coin collecting in America. Unlike rare gold coins worth thousands of dollars, Lincoln pennies feel accessible. Almost everyone has handled them at some point in life. That connection creates nostalgia. For older Americans, these coins may remind them of childhood allowance money, candy stores, or family coin collections passed down through generations. The 1981 no-mint mark penny sits right at the edge of an important transition in American coinage history. It belongs to the final years before the familiar heavy copper cent disappeared. Because of that, many collectors see it as more than just loose change. It represents the end of an era. There are also some fascinating details many people overlook. For example, the Philadelphia Mint produced enormous numbers of pennies in 1981, but very few survived in truly flawless condition. Pennies were heavily used in everyday commerce, and most quickly became scratched, faded, or worn. Finding a perfect example decades later is much harder than people expect. Another surprising fact is how strongly color affects value. Collectors often divide copper coins into categories like brown, and full red. A bright original red coin with minimal spotting can be worth significantly more than a darker example with the same technical grade. And even though the coin itself may seem small, the Lincoln Cent series has one of the largest collector communities in the world. Millions of people search these coins every year, studying tiny details that most people never notice. Some collectors focus only on errors. Others build complete year and mint collections. Some hunt for the highest graded examples possible. That endless variety keeps interest alive generation after generation. Today, the 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln penny continues to attract attention because it combines history, affordability, and the possibility of hidden value. Most examples are ordinary, but every collector knows that extraordinary coins sometimes hide in ordinary places. That is what makes coin collecting so addictive. A penny sitting unnoticed in a kitchen drawer might be worth only 1 cent. Or it could be a beautifully preserved survivor, a rare error, or a high-grade example collectors would eagerly compete to own. And somewhere right now, another person may be sorting through old coins, turning over 1981 Lincoln penny, and wondering if they just discovered something special. Because in the world of rare coins, The next valuable find is often hiding in plain sight. Most people would walk right past a 1985 Denver Lincoln penny without giving it a second look. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, some of these tiny copper-colored coins have sold for hundreds, even thousands of dollars because of small details almost nobody notices. One little mark. One tiny error. One unusual shine. And suddenly, a 1-cent coin becomes something collectors fight over. The 1985 D Lincoln penny is one of those coins that quietly hides in plain sight. Millions were made, billions of pennies moved through American pockets during the 1980s, and most people assumed these coins would never be worth more than face value. But over time, collectors discovered that certain 1985 Denver pennies stood out from the rest. Some had striking errors. Others were preserved in near-perfect condition. And a few became surprisingly valuable because of how difficult they are to find today. To understand why this penny matters, you first have to travel back to America in 1985. Ronald Reagan was president. Arcades were packed with kids playing video games. Cassette tapes filled car stereos. And the United States Mint was producing enormous numbers of coins to keep up with the economy. Pennies were still heavily used in everyday shopping, vending machines, and cash transactions. The Denver Mint, marked with the small letter D beneath the date, produced more than 5 billion Lincoln cents in 1985. That sounds massive, and it was. In fact, the Denver Mint was operating at incredible speed during the mid-1980s. Machines stamped coins day and night, pushing out millions of pennies every single day. At first glance, that huge number makes the coin sound completely common. And in many ways, it is. Most 1985 D pennies are only worth a cent. But collectors know something important. Even the most common coin can become valuable when unusual conditions appear. The Lincoln penny itself carries one of the most recognized designs in American history. The front of the coin shows Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. That portrait was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. It became the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. On the back of the 1985 penny, you see the classic Lincoln memorial design. Tiny but detailed, the memorial stands between two wheat-like branches. If you look closely enough with magnification, you can even see a miniature statue of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial. That tiny hidden detail amazed collectors for decades. The 1985 D penny was made mostly from zinc with a thin copper coating. Earlier Lincoln cents before 1982 were mostly solid copper, but rising metal prices forced the mint to change the composition. By 1985, nearly all pennies were zinc-based. This made them cheaper to produce, but it also created new problems. Zinc core pennies can develop bubbles, corrosion, peeling surfaces, and strange discoloration over time. Many collectors avoid heavily damaged examples because zinc coins are more fragile than the older copper versions. That means high-quality 1985 D pennies are harder to find today than many people expect. Now here is where things start getting interesting. Collectors searching through rolls of pennies discovered that some 1985 D Lincoln cents contain noticeable mint errors. And coin errors can completely transform the value of a coin. One of the most famous errors linked to 1985 pennies is the doubled die effect. On certain coins, parts of the lettering or numbers appear slightly doubled because of a mistake during the die creation process. Sometimes the date looks thicker. Sometimes the words Liberty or I and God We Trust appear doubled under magnification. To the average person, the coin may still look normal. But to collectors, these tiny differences are exciting because they represent mistakes from the minting process itself. Another error collectors watch for is off-center strikes. This happens when the blank coin is not properly aligned during minting. Part of the design may be missing, while the remaining image appears shifted toward one side. Depending on how dramatic the error is, these coins can sell for far more than ordinary pennies. There are also clipped planchette errors, where part of the coin is physically missing because the metal blank was cut incorrectly before striking. Some 1985 D pennies with dramatic clips have become very collectible. Then there are die cracks and cut errors. These happen when the minting die begins to break apart from heavy use. Raised lines or blobs can appear on the coin surface, creating unusual textures collectors love to study. But perhaps the biggest factor affecting value is condition. Because billions of 1985 D pennies entered circulation, finding worn examples is easy. Finding perfect ones is much harder. Collectors use grading systems to judge coin quality. A penny with scratches, dull surfaces, or worn details may only be worth face value. But a sharply struck coin with original red color and almost no flaws can become highly desirable. Coins graded in mint state condition, especially those with bright original red surfaces, can command surprisingly strong prices. Professional grading companies examine these coins carefully under magnification, looking for even the smallest imperfections. A regular circulated 1985D penny might buy absolutely nothing beyond 1 cent. But a superb gem quality example graded MS67 red has sold for hundreds of dollars at auction. Some elite examples have crossed into even higher territory when the strike quality and preservation are exceptional. And that shocks many people. How can a coin made by the billions suddenly be worth hundreds? The answer lies in survival. Most coins from 1985 were heavily used. They bounced through cash registers, pockets, vending machines, and jars for decades. Scratches accumulated. Dirt built up. Surfaces faded. Perfect coins became rare because almost nobody saved them carefully. Collectors also pay attention to color designation. Lincoln cents are often labeled brown, red-brown, or red. Fully red examples are usually worth the most because they retain the bright copper appearance they had when first minted. Over time, oxygen changes the color of copper-coated pennies. Many turn darker or brown. So when a 1985D penny still shines with strong original red luster after decades, collectors notice immediately. Some auction sales have surprised even experienced collectors. High-grade certified 1985D pennies with exceptional eye appeal have reached several $100s. Error coins can sometimes climb even higher depending on rarity and demand. And there is another reason this coin remains popular. It represents a transition era in American coinage. The 1980s were a major turning point for the Lincoln cent. The switch from copper to zinc changed how pennies aged, looked, and survived. Many collectors feel these coins tell an important story about economic pressures in the United States and how rising material costs forced the government to adapt. That historical connection adds another layer of interest. Now, if you want to know whether your own 1985D penny might be valuable, there are several things to check carefully. First, look beneath the date for the small D mint mark. That confirms the coin was made in Denver. Next, examine the overall condition. Is the coin shiny and bright, or dull and damaged? Does Lincoln's portrait still show sharp details? Are the lettering and date crisp? Then look for unusual features. Use a magnifying glass if possible. Check for doubling in the letters or numbers. Look for off-center designs, cracks, clipped edges, or strange raised marks. Weight can also matter. Most standard 1985 zinc pennies weigh about 2.5 grams. If a coin weighs significantly more or less, collectors may become interested because unusual planchette errors occasionally occur. One important warning for beginners is cleaning. Many people think polishing an old coin will increase its value. In reality, cleaning almost always reduces collector interest. Harsh cleaning leaves scratches and unnatural surfaces experts can spot immediately. A naturally aged coin is usually preferred over a shiny cleaned one. Counterfeit coins are another issue in the coin world, though fake 1985D pennies are less common than fake rare dates. Sometimes altered coins appear online where scammers try to add fake errors or change mint marks. That is why serious collectors often rely on professional grading companies. Certified coins sealed in official holders give buyers more confidence about authenticity and condition. There are also fun details about the Lincoln Memorial Penny series many people never notice. For example, the Lincoln Memorial reverse design remained on pennies from 1959 until 2008. That means the 1985D penny belongs to one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. Another surprising detail is how tiny the Lincoln statue appears inside the memorial on the reverse. It is so small that many people never realize it is there. Yet engravers manage to include that miniature image on a coin only about the size of a thumbnail. Some collectors love searching through bankrolls looking for high-grade 1980s pennies because they believe overlooked treasures still exist in circulation. Every year, people discover coins sitting unnoticed in jars, drawers, and inherited collections. And that treasure hunting aspect is part of what keeps coin collecting alive. A simple penny becomes more than money. It becomes history you can hold in your hand. Think about where a 1985D penny may have traveled. It could have passed through diners, gas stations, baseball games, grocery stores, and movie theaters across America. It may have sat forgotten inside a piggy bank for 30 years before being rediscovered by a collector with a sharp eye. That connection between everyday life and hidden value fascinates people. Collectors also appreciate how affordable Lincoln cents are compared to other rare coins. Not everyone can buy a gold coin worth thousands of dollars, but almost anyone can search through pennies and hope to discover something special. That possibility creates excitement. And even though the 1985 D penny is not considered one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever made, the best examples prove that value is not always about age alone. Condition, rarity within condition, mint errors, and collector demand can transform an ordinary-looking coin into a prize collectible. So the next time you see a penny dated 1985 with a small D mint mark, do not dismiss it too quickly. Look closer. Check the surfaces. Study the details. Because hidden among billions of ordinary coins may be one extraordinary example worth far more than 1 cent. And that is the magic of coin collecting. Every coin tells a story. Some stories are obvious. Others stay hidden for decades until someone finally notices the tiny details everyone else ignored. The 1985 D Lincoln penny is one of those quiet survivors from America's past, waiting for the right collector to uncover its secrets. And somewhere tonight, in an old jar, forgotten drawer, or dusty coin album, another valuable penny may still be waiting to be found. Most people would never look twice at a 1987 Lincoln penny. It sits in old jars, disappears into couch cushions, and gets handed out as change every single day. But what if one ordinary-looking penny from 1987 could actually be worth hundreds, or even thousands, of dollars? And what if the tiny detail that changes everything is something most people never notice at all? The 1987 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is one of those coins that quietly sparks curiosity among collectors across America. At first glance, it looks completely normal. Abraham Lincoln on the front. The Lincoln Memorial on the back. Copper-colored shine. Nothing dramatic. But hidden inside certain examples are details, errors, and condition rarities that have made collectors pay serious money for what used to be just 1 cent. To understand why this coin matters, we need to go back to the late 1980s. America was changing fast. The Cold War was nearing its final years, shopping malls were booming, and millions of Americans still carried cash every day. Pennies moved constantly through the economy. Vending machines, gas stations, grocery stores, and bankrolls all relied on them. In 1987, the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents. These coins were struck mainly in Philadelphia and Denver, with proof versions made in San Francisco. The Philadelphia coins are the ones collectors usually call the no-mint mark pennies because, at that time, Philadelphia cents did not carry a mint mark. If you look at a regular 1987 penny and see no small letter under the date, that means it came from Philadelphia. That missing letter is completely normal for this coin. But despite being common overall, certain versions have become highly collectible because of condition, striking errors, and unusual production flaws. The Lincoln cent itself has a long and important history. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, it became the first circulating American coin to feature a real person. Before Lincoln appeared on the penny, American coins mostly showed symbolic figures like Lady Liberty. The design used in 1987 was created decades earlier. On the front, Lincoln's portrait was designed by Victor David Brenner. On the back was the Lincoln Memorial design introduced in 1959. If you look closely at the reverse side, you can actually see a tiny image of Lincoln seated inside the memorial. That tiny detail amazed collectors for generations because the same person appears on both sides of the coin. By 1987, the composition of the penny had already changed from the old solid bronze style people remembered from earlier decades. Rising copper prices forced the mint to adjust production costs. So the 1987 penny was made mostly of zinc with a thin copper coating. The coin weighed about 2.5 grams and had a bright copper appearance even though very little actual copper was inside. That composition change became important later because zinc core pennies can develop bubbling, corrosion, and plating issues over time. Some collectors now search for unusually preserved examples because many surviving coins aged poorly. One of the biggest reasons collectors pay attention to the 1987 no-mint mark penny is condition rarity. Most circulated examples are only worth face value. But when a coin survives in near-perfect condition, the story changes dramatically. Think about how hard it is for a penny to stay flawless. Pennies are the most abused coins in circulation. They scrape against other coins, get dropped on concrete, tossed into drawers, and stored in humid jars for years. So when experts find a 1987 penny with sharp details, glowing luster, and almost no marks, collectors compete heavily for them. Professional grading companies use a scale from 1 to 70. Coins graded at the top of the scale can become extremely valuable because so few survive in that condition. Some 1987 no-mint mark pennies graded at very high mint state levels have sold for hundreds of dollars at auction simply because they are exceptionally clean. But condition is only part of the mystery. Errors are where things become truly exciting. Coin errors happen during the minting process. Sometimes machinery shifts slightly. Sometimes metal flows incorrectly. Sometimes dies become damaged. These accidents can create unusual coins that collectors love because they are accidental pieces of history. One popular error connected to 1987 pennies is doubling. This happens when parts of the design appear doubled because of issues during die creation or striking. Collectors often examine the lettering, date, or Lincoln's features under magnification, searching for signs of doubling. Another sought-after variety involves off-center strikes. Imagine a coin entering the press incorrectly so the design lands partially off the edge. These mistakes can look dramatic, and depending on how severe the error is, collectors may pay substantial amounts. There are also clipped planchets, where part of the coin is literally missing because the metal blank was improperly cut before striking. Some 1987 pennies with this unusual shape attract strong interest in the collector market. Then there are die cracks and cut errors. These occur when minting dies begin breaking after heavy use. Raised lines or blobs appear on the coin surface, creating strange-looking features collectors find fascinating. While many error coins are minor and inexpensive, rare dramatic examples can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on uniqueness and condition. One reason stories about valuable pennies spread so quickly is because ordinary people sometimes discover them unexpectedly. Unlike rare gold coins locked in museums, Lincoln cents are coins almost anyone might still find in circulation, old collections, or inherited jars. There have been collectors who searched through bankrolls for years looking for special pennies. Some found double dies. Others uncovered high-grade examples hidden for decades. The excitement comes from possibility. Every penny has the chance, however small, of being something unusual. Auction records help fuel that excitement even more. A standard circulated 1987 no-mint mark penny is generally worth 1 cent. But high-grade certified examples have sold for impressive prices. Certain coins graded near perfection by major grading services have brought several $100s at auction. Exceptional red uncirculated examples with flawless surfaces are especially valuable because copper-colored coins often darken or spot over time. Error versions can command even stronger prices. Dramatic off-center strikes or significant double die examples have sold for hundreds and occasionally more depending on demand and certification. Collectors are willing to spend real money because rarity in coin collecting is not always about age. Sometimes it is about survival, condition, or unusual mistakes. A newer coin in perfect condition can actually be much harder to find than an older worn coin. Of course, whenever money enters the picture, fake coins and altered coins appear too. That is why collectors learn carefully how to identify genuine examples. The first thing to check is the date and mint mark area. A true 1987 Philadelphia penny should have no mint mark beneath the date. If someone altered the surface or removed a mint mark from another coin, signs of damage may appear under magnification. Weight is another clue. A normal 1987 penny should weigh around 2.5 grams because of its zinc core. Counterfeit or altered pieces may weigh differently. Collectors also inspect color and texture. Genuine coins struck by the mint usually have consistent surfaces and proper details. Fake error coins often show tool marks, unnatural cuts, or altered designs. Magnification helps reveal many important details. Serious collectors use coin loupes or microscopes to study lettering, surfaces, and strike characteristics. Even tiny inconsistencies can expose a fake. Certification from trusted grading companies also adds confidence. When a coin is authenticated and graded professionally, buyers feel safer paying higher prices because experts already inspected it. One fascinating fact about the 1987 penny is how overlooked it remains by many people. Some collectors spend years searching older coins while ignoring modern cents entirely. But modern coin specialists know certain newer coins can be surprisingly difficult to locate in elite condition. Another interesting detail involves the color grading system for copper coins. Collectors categorize pennies as brown, red-brown, or red. Fully red examples retain their original bright mint color and are usually the most valuable. Because copper surfaces change over time, finding a 1987 penny that still looks freshly minted decades later can be surprisingly difficult. There is also something deeply nostalgic about Lincoln cents. Generations of Americans grew up using them daily. Children filled piggy banks with them. Families rolled them for extra cash. Grandparents stored them in coffee cans and old drawers. That emotional connection makes collecting Lincoln pennies feel personal in a way many other collectibles do not. For some collectors, the 1987 no-mint mark penny represents the thrill of the hunt more than massive wealth. It reminds people that valuable discoveries are not always hidden in treasure chests or buried underground. Sometimes they are sitting quietly in everyday life, unnoticed for decades. Coin collecting itself has changed dramatically in recent years. Online auctions, digital grading databases, and social media videos have introduced millions of people to modern coin searching. Stories of rare pennies selling for astonishing amounts inspire beginners to examine their spare change more closely. At the same time, experienced collectors warn people to separate hype from reality. Not every 1987 penny is rare. Most are still common circulation coins worth face value. But the small percentage with exceptional condition or authentic mint errors are what keep the search alive. That balance between ordinary and extraordinary is what makes coin collecting so addictive. One penny may be nearly worthless. Another that looks almost identical could be worth hundreds. And often, the difference comes down to tiny details invisible to the untrained eye. Collectors today continue chasing the best examples of the 1987 no-mint mark Lincoln penny because each one tells a story about American history, mint production, and survival through decades of circulation. These coins passed through millions of hands during a completely different era of American life. Every scratch, shine, or minting flaw reflects a moment frozen in metal. Some collectors build entire albums dedicated only to Lincoln cents. Others focus strictly on errors. Some hunt for perfect certified coins. And many simply enjoy the excitement of checking pocket change, hoping to spot something unusual. That is the real magic behind this humble penny. It transforms an ordinary object into a mystery. The next time you see a 1987 Lincoln penny without a mint mark, you may look at it differently. Instead of just another cent, it becomes a small piece of history with hidden possibilities. Maybe it is common. Maybe it survived in remarkable condition. Maybe it carries an unnoticed mint error waiting to be discovered. And somewhere tonight, a collector is probably searching through another roll of pennies hoping to find the one coin everyone else missed. Most people would never look twice at a 1989 Lincoln penny. It's small, brown, ordinary, and usually lost in jars, couch cushions, or forgotten pockets. But what if one simple penny from 1989 could secretly be worth hundreds, thousands, or even more to the right collector? And what if the clue that changes everything is something most people never notice at all? The missing mint mark. The 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one of those coins that keeps collectors searching through old change even today. At first glance, it looks like just another common cent from the late 20th century. But hidden inside this tiny coin is a fascinating story involving American history, coin production, minting mistakes, and the incredible world of rare coin collecting. To understand why this coin matters, we first need to go back to 1989. America was entering the final years of the Cold War. Gas prices were low compared to today. Cassette tapes and VHS movies filled homes across the country. And millions upon millions of Lincoln pennies were being produced for everyday use. The Lincoln cent itself had already become one of the most recognized coins in American history. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, it was the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real person instead of a symbolic figure. That decision changed American coinage forever. By 1989, the Lincoln penny had already been around for 80 years. The front of the coin still featured the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. On the back, collectors saw the familiar Lincoln memorial design that had been introduced in 1959. The no-mint mark version of the 1989 penny was struck in Philadelphia. For many years, Philadelphia coins often carried no mint mark at all. That means if you look under the date on a 1989 penny and see no letter, the coin was made in Philadelphia. If you see a small d, it was made in Denver. An S would indicate San Francisco. Now here's where things start getting interesting. Even though millions of 1989 no-mint mark pennies were produced, collectors know that not all coins are equal. Some were struck under unusual conditions. Some developed errors during the minting process. Others survived in incredible condition while most became worn and damaged in circulation. And in the coin collecting world, tiny differences can create massive changes in value. The 1989 Lincoln penny was made mostly from zinc with a thin copper coating. This composition had started in 1982, when the US Mint changed pennies from mostly copper to zinc because copper prices had become too expensive. That means a 1989 penny may look like copper on the outside, but inside, it's mostly zinc. The coin weighs about 2.5 grams and has a smooth edge. Its design appears simple, but collectors study every detail carefully. They examine the date, lettering, surface color, strike quality, and even microscopic marks that most people would never notice. One reason the 1989 no mint mark penny gets attention is because of error coins. Coin errors happen when something goes wrong during production at the mint. Sometimes the mistake is small. Other times, it creates a coin that becomes extremely valuable. Collectors have discovered 1989 pennies with off-center strikes, doubled lettering, clipped planchets, die cracks, and other unusual features. Some examples show dramatic doubling in the words or numbers. Others appear misaligned or improperly struck. A doubled die error is especially exciting because it can make parts of the design appear doubled when viewed closely. On some coins, the date or lettering may look blurry or doubled under magnification. These errors can attract serious collector interest. Another valuable category involves transitional or wrong planchet errors. Imagine a penny being struck on the wrong metal blank by mistake. Errors like these are extremely rare and can sell for astonishing prices. But condition is just as important as errors. A normal 1989 no mint mark penny found in circulation is usually worth only 1 cent. That surprises many people. They hear stories of valuable pennies and assume every old coin must be rare. In reality, condition is often the deciding factor. Collectors use grading systems to judge a coin's quality. A penny with heavy wear, scratches, and fading will usually remain common. But a coin that looks nearly perfect, with original shine and sharp details, can become much more desirable. The highest grade examples are called mint state coins. These are coins that appear almost untouched. A professionally graded 1989 no mint mark penny in extremely high mint state condition can sell for far more than face value. Some auction records have surprised even experienced collectors. Certain high-grade examples certified by professional grading companies have sold for hundreds of dollars. Rare error versions can bring even more depending on the type of mistake and the coin's condition. One of the reasons collectors pay strong money for top-grade modern pennies is because very few survive perfectly preserved. Most coins enter circulation immediately after leaving the mint. They get scratched, dropped, bent, or worn down over time. Finding a flawless example decades later becomes surprisingly difficult. And that's exactly why collectors continue searching through old coin jars and bankrolls. There's also a psychological side to coin collecting that makes the 1989 penny fascinating. People love the idea that treasure could be hiding in everyday change. Unlike rare gold bars locked in museums, pennies feel accessible. Anyone can search for them. Anyone could potentially discover one. That possibility keeps the hobby alive. Now, if you want to identify a valuable 1989 no mint mark Lincoln penny, there are several things to check carefully. First, look directly under the date. If there is no letter at all, you have the Philadelphia version. Next, examine the overall condition. Does the coin still shine? Are Lincoln's features sharp and clear? Is the surface smooth and free from damage? Coins with bright original luster usually attract stronger collector interest. Then check for possible errors. Use a magnifying glass or coin loop if possible. Look closely at the date and lettering. Do any letters appear doubled? Does the strike look uneven? Is the design centered correctly? Also inspect the edge and surface for unusual characteristics. Some fake errors are created after coins leave the mint, so collectors must be careful. That leads to another important question. How do you tell a real valuable coin from a fake or altered one? Unfortunately, as coin values rise, altered coins become more common. Some people intentionally damage coins or modify them to imitate rare errors. One common trick involves adding fake doubling or changing mint marks. Others may plate coins with different metals to create unusual appearances. Serious collectors rely on professional grading companies for authentication. Organizations like PCGS and NGC examine coins carefully and seal genuine examples inside protective holders with official grades. If someone believes they have an unusual 1989 penny worth significant money, professional authentication can make a huge difference. There are also some fun facts about the Lincoln penny series that many people never realize. For example, Abraham Lincoln was not alive to approve his own appearance on the coin. The portrait used on the cent was based partly on a plaque created years earlier by Victor David Brenner. Another surprising fact is that billions of Lincoln cents have been produced, yet tiny variations between coins can still create rare collectibles worth huge amounts. Some collectors specialize only in Lincoln pennies. Entire collections are built around finding every date, mint mark, and variety. Others focus only on errors. A single unusual penny can become the centerpiece of an entire collection. The 1989 penny also belongs to an era many collectors now consider nostalgic. Coins from the 1980s remind people of a different America. Arcades, payphones, shopping malls, and video rental stores were part of everyday life. Holding one of these pennies can feel like holding a tiny piece of history. And while many people overlook modern-era coins, experienced collectors understand that rarity often develops slowly over time. A coin ignored today can become highly collectible decades later once surviving high-quality examples become harder to find. Another reason collectors enjoy the 1989 no-mint mark penny is because it combines affordability with mystery. Unlike rare coins costing thousands immediately, this is a coin ordinary people can still realistically search for themselves. That creates excitement. Every handful of change becomes an opportunity. Every penny roll from the bank could contain something unusual. And sometimes, ordinary people really do make incredible discoveries. There are stories of collectors finding valuable era pennies in pocket change, inherited jars, or old piggy banks that sat untouched for years. Those discoveries fuel the imagination of millions of hobbyists across America. The internet has made this even bigger. Online auctions, collector forums, and coin videos have introduced new generations to the hunt for rare pennies. Suddenly, people who never cared about coins before started checking dates and mint marks. And the 1989 no-mint mark penny remains part of that conversation. Not because every example is worth a fortune, but because certain rare varieties and high-grade examples truly can carry impressive value. That's the important distinction many beginners miss. Most 1989 pennies are common, but the right one, under the right conditions, can become genuinely collectible. And that possibility transforms an ordinary coin into something far more interesting. In many ways, the story of the 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is really about attention to detail. It reminds us that value often hides in places people ignore. A tiny difference, a small error, or exceptional preservation can completely change how a coin is viewed. That idea fascinates collectors. A coin worth 1 cent to most people might be worth hundreds to someone who understands what they're seeing. So the next time you receive change at a store, open an old coin jar, or discover forgotten pennies in a drawer, take a closer look before spending them. That worn little cent might carry more history, rarity, and collector interest than you ever imagined. And somewhere out there right now, someone is probably holding a rare 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny without realizing it yet. Most people would walk right past a 1990 Lincoln penny without giving it a second look. It sits in old jars, coffee cans, desk drawers, and loose change trays all across America. But what if one tiny detail on that ordinary-looking penny could make collectors stop in their tracks? What if a simple coin worth 1 cent could actually be hiding a story far more valuable than most people realize? The 1990 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one of those coins that sparks curiosity the moment collectors begin examining it closely. At first glance, it looks completely normal. Abraham Lincoln appears on the front just like millions of other pennies. The Lincoln Memorial stands proudly on the back. The color is familiar, the size is ordinary, and most people would never suspect anything unusual about it. But in the world of coin collecting, sometimes the smallest details create the biggest excitement. To understand why this penny matters, it helps to go back to the year 1990. America was entering a new decade. The Cold War was ending. Gas prices were low compared to today. Shopping malls were packed every weekend, and millions of pennies were being produced every single day by the United States Mint. The Lincoln cent had already been around for more than 80 years by that point. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, it became one of the most recognizable coins in American history. 4 generations of Americans, the Lincoln penny represented everyday life. Kids saved them in piggy banks. Families rolled them into paper wrappers. Store clerks handed them out by the handful. In 1990, the U.S. Mint produced billions of Lincoln pennies. Some came from Philadelphia, some from Denver, and some from San Francisco in special proof sets. But the no-mint mark version came from the Philadelphia Mint, and that detail is important. For many years, Philadelphia coins often carried no mint mark at all. That means if you look at the front of a 1990 penny and see no little letter under the date, it was struck in Philadelphia. Coins from Denver carried a small D mint mark, while San Francisco proof coins used an S. At the time, nobody thought much about it. These coins were made for circulation, not for collectors. But decades later, collectors began discovering certain 1990 pennies with unusual features, striking errors, and rare conditions that made them far more interesting than ordinary pocket change. The 1990 Lincoln penny is made mostly of zinc with a thin copper coating. Earlier Lincoln cents were made primarily of bronze, but rising metal prices forced the mint to change the composition in the early 1980s. By 1990, the new zinc core had become standard. Each penny weighed about 2.5 grams and measured just under an inch across. The front of the coin features the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. It was the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. Above Lincoln's head appears the motto, "In God We Trust." The word liberty sits to the left, while the date 1990 appears on the right. On the reverse side is the Lincoln Memorial design created by Frank Gasparro. If you look carefully at the memorial, you can actually see a tiny image of Lincoln sitting inside. That makes the Lincoln cent one of the few coins in history to feature the same person on both sides. Now here is where things become interesting. Most 1990 mint mark pennies are worth exactly 1 cent in circulated condition. But collectors are not hunting ordinary examples. They are searching for the rare versions with errors, unusual striking characteristics, or exceptionally preserved surfaces. One of the most talked about varieties involves the famous No S proof penny from 1990. Technically, that coin was made in San Francisco and should have carried an S mint mark. But a small number were accidentally struck without the mint mark entirely. These rare proof coins became legendary among collectors because they were never supposed to exist. Only a tiny number escaped into proof sets before the mistake was discovered. Today, authentic 1990 No S proof pennies are considered major rarities in modern coin collecting. One example sold for thousands of dollars at auction. In high-grade proof condition, some have brought prices exceeding $20,000. Imagine opening a proof set and discovering a coin that could pay for a car, a vacation, or even more. But even regular 1990 no mint mark pennies can carry surprising value under the right circumstances. Collectors pay close attention to condition. A coin that looks freshly minted with bright red color and almost nowhere can be worth far more than an ordinary circulated penny. In grading terms, these are often called mint state coins. Some high-grade 1990 pennies have sold for impressive amounts because flawless examples are harder to find than most people expect. Think about how pennies are treated in daily life. They bounce around in pockets, scrape against keys, fall onto sidewalks, and sit for years in jars collecting dirt and scratches. Finding one that survived in nearly perfect condition is surprisingly difficult. There are also error coins from 1990 that collectors aggressively search for. Double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and broad strike errors can all add significant value depending on how dramatic the mistake appears. A double die occurs when part of the design appears doubled because of a mistake during the die-making process. On some coins, letters or numbers may look slightly duplicated. These varieties attract major attention because they are genuine mint mistakes rather than damage caused after circulation. Off-center strikes happen when the coin blank is not positioned correctly during striking. This creates a coin where part of the design is missing while blank metal remains visible on one side. The more dramatic the error, the more collectors usually pay. Another interesting feature collectors watch for is color designation. Lincoln pennies are often classified as brown, red-brown, or red. Fully red examples with original mint luster are especially desirable because copper surfaces tend to darken over time. A brilliant red 1990 penny preserved carefully since the day it was minted can command much higher prices than a dark brown example found in circulation. Of course, whenever valuable coins become popular, counterfeiters and altered coins also appear. That is why learning how to identify a real coin matters. First, collectors examine the date and mint mark area carefully. On genuine no mint mark Philadelphia coins, there should be no signs of tampering. Some fake error coins are created by removing a mint mark from another coin. Under magnification, scratches or altered surfaces often reveal the deception. Weight is another important clue. Genuine 1990 pennies should weigh around 2.5 grams because of their zinc composition. A coin with the wrong weight may be counterfeit or altered. Collectors also inspect the surface quality and strike details. Real proof coins display mirror-like fields and sharp details. If a supposed rare proof error looks dull or poorly struck, that raises suspicion immediately. Professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC help authenticate valuable coins. When a coin is especially rare or potentially worth thousands, collectors often rely on certified grading for protection. One fascinating fact about the 1990 Lincoln penny is how many people may still own one without realizing it. Billions were made, and countless examples remain hidden in old collections, forgotten piggy banks, and family coin jars. That possibility creates excitement. It gives ordinary people the feeling that treasure might still be sitting unnoticed in their homes. Another surprising detail is how modern coin collecting has exploded online. Videos, auctions, and social media discussions have introduced younger generations to coins that previous collectors quietly searched for decades ago. Suddenly, people who never cared about pennies started checking dates, mint marks, and unusual features. Stories of valuable coins selling for huge amounts fueled curiosity everywhere. And there is something deeply satisfying about searching through coins. Unlike many hobbies that require expensive equipment or advanced knowledge, coin collecting can begin with spare change already in your pocket. That is part of the reason collectors love the 1990 mint mark penny. It feels accessible. It reminds people that history and hidden value sometimes exist in the smallest objects imaginable. For many collectors, the excitement is not only about money. It is about the hunt. Every coin carries a journey. A 1990 penny may have passed through thousands of hands over the decades. It may have traveled across states, sat inside cash registers, fallen beneath car seats, or rested inside collections for years. When collectors examine coins closely, they are holding tiny pieces of American history. The Lincoln cent itself represents one of the longest-running coin designs in United States history. Generations of Americans used these coins during major historical events, economic changes, wars, celebrations, and everyday life. Even though the 1990 penny seems modern compared to older coins from the early 1900s, it is already more than 3 decades old. Time moves quickly, and coins once considered common eventually become nostalgic reminders of another era. Collectors also appreciate the challenge of finding top-quality examples. Because pennies were heavily used, locating one with perfect surfaces, strong luster, and no visible damage becomes increasingly difficult over time. That challenge keeps the market active. Auction prices for superb examples continue attracting attention because collectors compete fiercely for the best preserved coins. Some people search bankrolls hoping to discover hidden treasures. Others attend coin shows, estate sales, or flea markets looking for overlooked pieces. And every so often, someone makes an exciting discovery that reminds everyone why coin collecting remains so popular. The 1990 mint mark Lincoln penny may never appear extraordinary to the average person. To most people, it is just another cent. But to collectors, it represents something much bigger. It represents possibility. Possibility that an ordinary object can hold hidden value. Possibility that history survives in everyday items. Possibility that careful observation can uncover something others miss completely. And perhaps that is the real reason these coins continue fascinating collectors year after year. Because somewhere tonight, someone is opening an old coin jar, sorting through forgotten pennies, and suddenly noticing a date that reads 1990 with no mint mark beneath it. Maybe it is common. Maybe it is damaged. Or maybe, just maybe, it is the coin that sends them deep into the world of rare coin collecting forever. The next time you receive change from a store or hear loose coins rattling in a drawer, take a closer look before ignoring those pennies. One small detail could completely change the story of an ordinary coin. Most people would walk right past a 1991 Lincoln penny without giving it a second look. It looks ordinary, common, almost forgettable. But hidden among millions of these tiny copper-colored coins are rare versions that have shocked collectors with surprising values, mysterious errors, and stories that make people dig through old jars and forgotten piggy banks even today. And the most interesting part is this. The coin we are talking about does not even have a mint mark. The 1991 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is one of those coins that quietly lives in circulation, while a few special examples have become highly collectible. To the average person, it is just 1 cent. But to coin collectors, certain versions of this penny are treasure hiding in plain sight. To understand why this coin matters, we first need to go back to the early 1990s in America. The country was changing fast. The Cold War had ended, technology was beginning to reshape everyday life, and the United States Mint was producing billions of coins every year to keep up with a growing economy. Pennies were everywhere. They passed through grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, and pockets across the country every single day. In 1991, the Lincoln cent had already been part of American life for more than 80 years. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, it became the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical person instead of the symbolic images used before. The design had become iconic. On the front was Abraham Lincoln's profile, created by sculptor Victor David Brenner. On the back was the famous Lincoln Memorial design that Americans recognized instantly. The no-mint mark version of the 1991 penny was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. For many years, coins from Philadelphia usually carried no mint mark at all, unlike coins from Denver, which use the letter D, or San Francisco, which use the letter S. So when collectors say 1991 no mint mark penny, they are talking about a Philadelphia issue. At first glance, these pennies seem extremely common. After all, the Philadelphia Mint produced more than 4 billion Lincoln cents in 1991. That number is enormous. Because of that, most 1991 no-mint mark pennies are only worth 1 cent today. But the story changes completely when condition, rarity, and mint errors enter the picture. One reason collectors pay attention to this coin is because of how the penny was made during that era. Earlier Lincoln cents had been made mostly of copper. But by 1991, the composition had changed. These coins were primarily zinc with a thin copper coating. Each penny contained about 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper. The change had happened in the early 1980s because copper prices were rising and producing pure copper pennies was becoming too expensive for the government. This new metal combination created unique problems. Some 1991 pennies developed bubbling, peeling, or strange surface textures as the copper coating reacted over time. Collectors often search for unusual examples where the plating looks distorted or damaged in interesting ways. While many of these are simply circulation damage, a few are linked to genuine minting mistakes that can increase value significantly. The design itself also holds important details. On the front of the coin, Lincoln faces right, with the words "In God We Trust" above his head, "Liberty" to the left, and the year 1991 to the right. Since this version has no mint mark, the area below the year remains blank. On the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial stands in the center with the words "United States of America," 1 cent, and "E Pluribus Unum." Now here is where things become exciting for collectors. Certain 1991 no-mint mark pennies contain errors or unusual characteristics that can make them worth far more than face value. One of the most talked about varieties involves double dies. A double die happens during the coin production process when the design is accidentally impressed more than once at slightly different angles onto the die used to strike coins. The result can create visible doubling on letters, numbers, or parts of the design. Some collectors have reported 1991 pennies showing noticeable doubling in areas such as the date, the word "Liberty," or the inscriptions around the coin. Strong double die examples can attract serious interest because collectors love minting mistakes that are easy to see with magnification. Another error that appears on some 1991 pennies is off-center striking. This occurs when the coin blank is not properly aligned during the striking process. The result is a coin with part of the design missing and a blank curved area on one side. Depending on how dramatic the error is, these coins can sell for surprisingly high amounts. There are also broad strike errors, clipped planchets, and die cracks found on some examples from 1991. A die crack appears when the minting die begins to break after heavy use. This creates raised lines across the surface of the coin. Some collectors specifically hunt for dramatic die cracks because they tell a story about the stress and wear inside the mint itself. But condition is often even more important than errors. Most 1991 pennies spent decades circulating through everyday commerce. They became scratched, faded, stained, or worn down. Finding one in perfect condition today is much harder than people realize. Collectors use grading systems to judge coin quality. A heavily worn penny may only be worth face value, but a nearly flawless example with full original luster can become valuable. Coins graded mint state 67 or higher are especially desirable because so few survive in that condition. In fact, some top-quality 1991 no-mint mark pennies have sold for hundreds of dollars at auction. While ordinary circulated examples remain common, pristine coins certified by professional grading services can attract competitive bidding among collectors trying to build high-end Lincoln cent collections. One famous example involved a 1991 Lincoln penny graded at an exceptionally high mint state level that sold for several $1,000s due to its remarkable preservation and rarity in that grade. This surprises many people because they assume modern pennies cannot be valuable. But in coin collecting, condition can completely transform a coin's worth. There is another reason this coin fascinates collectors. It sits in an interesting period of Lincoln cent history. The early 1990s marked a transition between older generations of collectors and newer ones entering the hobby. Many people alive today remember using these pennies regularly during childhood. That sense of nostalgia creates emotional value along with financial interest. People often search through old jars inherited from parents or grandparents hoping to find hidden treasures. Sometimes they discover rare wheat pennies or silver coins. Other times they uncover high-grade modern coins like the 1991 penny that escaped circulation entirely. The thrill of discovery keeps the hobby alive. Of course, whenever money is involved, fake or altered coins appear too. That is why collectors must learn how to identify authentic examples. A genuine 1991 no-mint mark penny should weigh about 2.5 grams because of its zinc composition. Older copper pennies weigh more, around 3.11 grams. Some dishonest sellers try to alter coins or create fake errors to fool buyers. Using a precise scale is one of the simplest ways to check authenticity. Collectors should also inspect the surface carefully. Real mint errors happen during production and usually look natural under magnification. Fake alterations often show tool marks, scratches, or unnatural textures. If a coin appears suspiciously damaged, it may not be a genuine mint error at all. Professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC play a huge role in the coin market because they authenticate and grade coins. Many valuable 1991 pennies sold at auction were certified by these organizations. Certification gives buyers confidence that the coin is genuine and accurately graded. Interestingly, some collectors also search for transitional errors connected to the penny's composition changes during the 1980s and early 1990s. Although rare, unusual planchette mistakes sometimes occur when the wrong metal blanks enter production. These kinds of discoveries are extremely valuable because they represent mistakes the mint never intended to release. The 1991 penny also carries subtle design details that many people never notice. If you look closely at the reverse side, you can actually see a tiny image of Lincoln seated inside the Lincoln Memorial between the central columns. It is one of the smallest design details ever placed on a circulating U.S. coin. Many Americans use these pennies for years without realizing Lincoln appears on both sides of the coin. Another surprising fact is how many pennies disappear over time. Millions are lost in couches, parking lots, rivers, and old buildings every year. Even though billions were made, far fewer survive in perfect condition. That scarcity at the highest grades is what drives collector demand. Coin roll hunting has become especially popular because of coins like this. People buy rolls of pennies from banks and search through them looking for rare dates, errors, or high-grade examples. The excitement comes from never knowing what might appear next. A single overlooked penny could potentially be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Social media and online marketplaces have also helped fuel interest in modern Lincoln cents. Videos showing valuable pennies often inspire people to check their own change. While most coins they find will be ordinary, the possibility of discovering a rare variety keeps the hunt exciting. Collectors today love the 1991 no-mint mark penny because it represents accessibility. Unlike rare gold coins that cost fortunes, Lincoln cents allow almost anyone to participate in coin collecting. You do not need huge wealth to start searching. Sometimes all it takes is patience, curiosity, and attention to detail. For experienced collectors, the challenge is finding exceptional examples with sharp strikes, strong luster, and minimal marks. For beginners, the thrill comes from learning how small details can dramatically affect value. Either way, this simple penny becomes more than loose change. It becomes a connection to American history, craftsmanship, and discovery. And perhaps that is the real reason coins like the 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny continue to capture attention. They remind us that extraordinary things can hide inside ordinary objects. A coin most people ignore could hold a story, a mistake, or even a surprising value waiting to be uncovered. So the next time you receive a penny and change, do not dismiss it too quickly. Look at the date. Check for a mint mark. Examine the details carefully. Because somewhere out there, another rare 1991 no mint mark Lincoln penny may still be sitting unnoticed in a jar, a drawer, or a pocket, waiting for someone curious enough to finally recognize what it really is. Most people would never look twice at a 1993 Lincoln penny. It's small, brown, ordinary, and usually buried in jars, drawers, or loose pocket change. But what if one simple penny from 1993 could actually be worth hundreds, thousands, or even more to the right collector? And what if one tiny detail, hidden near the date, could completely change its value? That's exactly why collectors across America still search through old coin rolls and forgotten piggy banks looking for the 1993 D Lincoln cent. At first glance, it seems like just another modern penny. But hidden among the billions produced that year are rare varieties, striking errors, and high-grade coins that have shocked collectors with surprising prices. The 1993 D Lincoln penny was struck at the Denver Mint, which is why you'll see the small D Mint mark under the date. This coin was part of the famous Lincoln cent series that began back in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln. It became the first regular U.S. coin to feature a real historical person instead of symbolic artwork. By 1993, the Lincoln penny had already been part of American life for more than 80 years. That year, the United States was going through a changing era. Technology was growing fast, the economy was evolving, and Americans still use cash every single day for almost everything. Pennies passed through millions of hands daily. Grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, and school cafeterias all relied on coins like the 1993 penny. Most people spent them without ever thinking twice. The Denver Mint produced over 6.4 billion Lincoln pennies in 1993. That number sounds enormous, and it is. Because so many were made, most 1993 D pennies are only worth 1 cent today. But in coin collecting, rarity is not always about low mintage numbers. Sometimes, rarity comes from condition, mistakes, or unusual features created during production. The design of the 1993 D penny stayed true to the classic Lincoln cent appearance Americans recognized for decades. On the front, or obverse, is Abraham Lincoln's portrait designed by Victor David Brenner. Above Lincoln's head is the phrase "In God We Trust." The word liberty appears to the left, while the date and mint mark appear on the right side. The back of the coin features the famous wheat-free memorial design introduced in 1959. It shows the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., with the words United States of America and 1 cent surrounding it. If you look carefully under magnification, you can actually see a tiny image of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial building itself. That small hidden detail fascinated collectors for years. The 1993 D penny was made mostly of zinc with a thin copper coating. Earlier Lincoln cents were made from solid bronze, but rising metal prices forced the mint to change compositions in the 1980s. By 1993, the copper-plated zinc planchet was standard for circulating pennies. Even though billions were produced, collectors quickly discovered that not all 1993 D pennies were identical. Some coins showed unusual striking errors that instantly made them more desirable. Others survived in extraordinary condition, becoming extremely valuable decades later. One of the most talked about varieties is the doubled die error. This happens when parts of the design appear doubled because of misalignment during the die-making process. On certain 1993 D pennies, collectors have reported doubling in the lettering, date, or mint mark. These coins can attract strong interest because the errors are visible and dramatic. Another important error involves off-center strikes. During minting, if the blank coin is not perfectly positioned, the design can appear shifted or incomplete. Some 1993 D pennies were struck off-center by several percent, creating unusual-looking coins that collectors love. There are also broad strike errors, where the collar holding the coin in place fails during striking. The result is a penny that appears wider and flatter than normal. Missing clad layers, die cracks, clipped planchets, and rotated dies have also been found on some examples from 1993. But perhaps the biggest factor affecting value is condition. Most 1993 D pennies entered circulation immediately and became worn through everyday use. Coins rubbed against pockets, cash registers, and countless other coins. Over time, their surfaces became scratched, faded, and dull. Because of that, truly pristine examples are surprisingly difficult to find. Collectors use grading systems to judge condition. A normal circulated 1993D penny may only be worth face value, but a coin graded mint state 67 or higher can become dramatically more valuable. In the world of modern pennies, tiny differences in condition matter enormously. A sharp, glowing red example with no major marks can sell for far more than people expect. Coins that retain their original bright copper red color are especially prized because copper naturally darkens over time. Some certified 1993D pennies in exceptional condition have sold for hundreds of dollars. In rare top population grades, values can climb even higher. One especially high-grade red specimen sold for more than many people would imagine possible for a penny struck in the 1990s. And then there are the error coins. A genuine double die or major strike error can bring hundreds or even thousands depending on rarity and visibility. Collectors constantly search bankrolls hoping to discover one hiding among ordinary change. That excitement is what keeps the hobby alive. The possibility that a tiny overlooked coin could suddenly become valuable creates a treasure hunt feeling unlike almost anything else. But with valuable coins comes another problem: counterfeits and altered coins. Some dishonest sellers try to fake rare pennies by modifying ordinary coins. They may add fake mint marks, alter dates, or create artificial damage to imitate mint errors. That's why learning how to identify a genuine 1993D Lincoln cent is so important. First, examine the mint mark carefully. On authentic coins, the D should appear natural and properly aligned beneath the date. Added mint marks often look uneven, oddly shaped, or glued onto the surface. Next, study the color and texture. Genuine copper-plated zinc cents usually show a consistent appearance. Fake or altered coins may display unusual surfaces, bubbling, or signs of tampering. Weight also matters. A standard 1993D penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. If the coin weighs significantly more or less, it may have been altered or damaged. Magnification is essential for checking errors. Real double dies show clear separation in letters or numbers, not simple blurriness. Many beginners confuse machine doubling with true double die errors, but experienced collectors know the difference immediately. If you believe you found an important example, professional grading companies can authenticate the coin. Services like PCGS and NGC examine coins closely and seal genuine examples inside protective holders. Certified coins usually attract stronger prices because buyers trust the grading. One fascinating fact about the 1993D penny is how many still remain undiscovered in circulation. Unlike older rare coins locked away in collections, these pennies still occasionally appear in pocket change. That means anyone could theoretically find one. Collectors often buy entire boxes of bank pennies just to search for hidden varieties. They look through thousands of coins hoping for one exciting discovery. Most searches end with ordinary cents, but every now and then someone uncovers a rare error worth far more than 1 cent. Another surprising detail involves coin preservation. Many people clean old coins thinking it increases value, but collectors usually avoid cleaned coins. Scrubbing or polishing damages the original surface and can lower value dramatically. Even a rare 1993D error coin may lose collector appeal if improperly cleaned. There's also strong nostalgia attached to these pennies. For many Americans, the 1993 Lincoln cent represents everyday life during the early 1990s. It reminds people of childhood allowances, arcade machines, school lunches, and simpler times before digital payments became common. That emotional connection matters more than many realize. Coin collecting is not only about money. It's also about history, memory, and preserving small pieces of America's past. The Lincoln cent itself has become one of the most collected coin series in U.S. history. Generations of families searched pennies together, filling blue coin albums one date at a time. Kids learned about history through Lincoln cents. Grandparents passed collections down to younger generations. Even today, the series remains one of the easiest entry points into coin collecting. The 1993D penny may not be the rarest Lincoln cent ever made, but it represents something important in the hobby. It proves that even modern coins can become valuable under the right circumstances. Collectors especially love modern coins with hidden potential. Since many people assume newer pennies are worthless, valuable examples can slip through unnoticed. That creates opportunities for careful collectors willing to pay attention. And there's still ongoing debate about certain varieties from the year. Some collectors continue searching for overlooked die variations or transitional errors that may not yet be fully documented. Every year, new discoveries appear in the coin world. That uncertainty adds another layer of excitement. Somewhere out there, a rare 1993D penny could still be sitting unnoticed in an old coffee can, forgotten drawer, or bankroll waiting to be discovered. Imagine finding one by accident. Imagine realizing that the ordinary penny you almost ignored was actually a collectible treasure. That possibility is what keeps millions of people fascinated by coins. In the end, the story of the 1993D Lincoln penny is really the story of hidden value. It's a reminder that even the smallest objects can carry history, mystery, and surprising worth. A coin created for everyday spending can eventually become a prized collectible decades later. So the next time you receive change, slow down before tossing those pennies aside. Look closely at the date. Check for that small Denver Mint mark. Study the surface, the color, and the details. Because one tiny coin that most people overlook could turn out to be the discovery every collector dreams about. And somewhere tonight,